Hey guys, I'm Duncan Wilson.
And I'm Sasha Syed, and you're listening to the Mortgage Sweet Spot Podcast, proudly presented to you by Mortgage Suite.
This podcast is your go-to source for expert insights, innovative strategies, and the latest mortgage trends to help you make the most informed decision regarding your mortgage financing. Whether you're a first-time home buyer, a seasoned real estate investor, or maybe somewhere in between, you've come to the right spot.
So sit back, relax, and get ready to discover your mortgage sweet spot. Welcome to another episode of Mortgage Sweet Spot. I'm here today with a special guest because Duncan is busy. So we have our guest, Jake Messina from Jump Realty. And as always, we have Maddie over off the side, keeping check on our time and making sure we're doing everything right. Okay, so we brought Jake in today. Jake is a real estate agent with Jump Realty. We're going to ask him some stuff about, benefits or pros and cons of doing your listing or buying a home with or without a realtor or a real estate agent. So yeah, let's jump into it. So without a realtor, Jake, what are some pros and cons about doing this without a realtor?
Yeah. Okay. So some pros, we can start there. Some pros of doing this without a realtor could be, you're going to potentially save on some commission. But granted that you're going to get the seller to agree to take that price that they save off of the purchase price that you get it for.
Okay. So like when you're negotiating the sale of a new property, if you're not using a realtor, you're asking them to reduce the listing price by what you would save on the commission. Is that what you mean?
So all commission at this point in time is dealt with on the seller's end. So the seller decides how much they pay the buying agent and the selling agent, the listing agent.
Oh, okay.
So if a person were to come and try and buy a home on their own without a realtor, the commission that they would be paying the realtor for someone that did have one, they wouldn't have to pay. So the person that's coming on their own would have to get the seller to agree to take that money that they're saving from paying the buying realtor to take that off their purchase price that they get it for instead of keeping it for themselves.
Okay. So, and like when we're talking about savings, then what's the average commission? What would somebody save? Just an estimate number based on like what the average commission is for you guys.
Yeah. So typically it's around 2.5% for both the buying side and the listing side. So it'd be roughly 2.5% that if they were able to negotiate that with the seller.
Okay. Are there any cons to doing this without a real estate agent? And is there any difference between if I want to list my house without an agent or I want to buy a house without an agent? What are some like downfalls that maybe somebody would face if they're doing it without an agent?
Yeah. Okay. For sure. So there's all kinds of cons for doing this by yourself, for sure.
All kinds.
Yeah.
Get a realtor.
Well, it's just, to be honest, I mean, you have a lack of market knowledge, unless you don't, but there are all kinds of tools that realtors have that the general public doesn't have access to, like looking for home prices in the general area that have sold in the last 6 months.
Like comparables?
Comparables, exactly. Yeah. Which is really important when you're determining your offer price, what you want to offer. Because when you're going at it alone, I mean, you're kind of just throwing numbers out, hoping for the best, and you might end up paying a lot more than the seller would have been willing to accept. So even if you think you're saving that 2.5%, you could have paid anywhere from 3 to 5% or even more than you would have if you had a realtor, for example.
Sure.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So how about with a realtor? Maddie's got here, lack of professional guidance, increased time and effort in research, and sorry about the phone there, Maddie.
Yeah, increasing your increased time in research for sure. I mean, you're going to spend a lot of time trying to get a hold of people, trying to find out what the current market trend is, which is always changing. And this process of trying to find a home can take months, right?
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you this though. What's it different from when a family decides that they want to buy their first home or upgrade to their secondary home or whatever it is? What's different from them saying, okay, I'm just going to go look on realtor.ca and see what's out there. My neighbor said, he bought his house at this price. The guy down the street said he had it listed for this price. Mm-hmm. So if I'm looking on realtor.ca with some advice that I got from people in the neighborhood, what's the difference between me doing that search on my own to doing the search with a real estate agent?
Well, you don't have any evidence or facts in that case, I would say. I mean, sure, you can trust people, what they say with what they sold or bought their house for. And, you want to believe people are honest, but sometimes they're not. Realtors have direct access to a system, the MLS, where everything is in plain sight. I mean, there's no secrets. It's available to all of us. And I mean, you can't legally lie about it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, people aren't always truthful.
True. So real estate agents have the tools, the tangible stuff they need to be able to determine and research for their clients then, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it always helps. Like with the comparables specifically, because you get to see, oh, this house just right down the street, 4 doors down, sold at this price a few months ago. This one sold here, a few streets over. The general public doesn't get to see that on realtor.ca. They just get to see listing prices. And a lot of times, like, homes aren't listed at the price they're going to sell for.
Yeah.
Whether it's they're listed less to attract attention, or they're listed more because that's the way the seller wanted it.
So in a case where the seller wanted it to be listed more, do you mean like they're just listing what they actually want for the property? Or is that also a tactic? Like how you list low and try to spark a bidding war?
Well, yeah, listing low for sure. You're familiar with that one.
Yeah, that's a tactic.
Yeah.
Like that's a straight up tactic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I can't see much benefit to listing high unless there is at some point in the future a rise in buyers that attempt to do this on their own because they just can't see the comparables, and you're kind of just, it's a shot in the dark really. And
sure.
Yeah, you might get lucky, you roll the dice. Sometimes you do, right?
Yeah. So essential steps for DIY home buying. DIY means do it yourself. Yeah. So, So what are some steps for DIY home buying? Getting pre-approved, baby. Finding properties and scheduling viewings, making offers, negotiating directly with sellers. Tell me some stuff. Like what are some steps if somebody out there wants to do it themselves?
Yeah. Okay. So it's definitely possible. You're going to want to have, first of all, a lot of time on your hands. So if you have a full-time job, it's going to be difficult. You're going to want to get a hold of, or try to get a hold of the sellers, right? And this could be multiple people if your first offer doesn't go through, which it is likely not to. So you're going to spend time knocking on doors. The seller, if you do get a hold of them, might not be willing to talk to you because a lot of times people will say things like, yeah, I'm interested. I'll have an offer for you, and then sort of not do it. So they might not be interested in hearing what you have to say. And they may redirect you to their agent, which is just another hoop to jump through. At which point you would try and figure out what you would have to do from there, because legally that agent is the agent for the seller. So they're acting in their best interests. So they can't give you any advice or help. And if anything, it may be the contrary, which is not a good position to be in, unfortunately.
Yeah. Okay. So when we're talking about like writing up offers, like can I just write up an offer? Can I grab that agreement to purchase and sale fillable doc and try to write up an offer myself, or should I be getting legal advice? I guess basically the question is, can I legally do it myself, even if it's wrong or whatever? Can I do it myself and present that to a seller?
As far as I'm concerned, you definitely are going to have to get a lawyer involved. Okay. Because they're going to have to do things like, help you with paperwork and transfer of title and whatnot, the legal aspects.
So like in an event where I did write my own offer without any legal help, and then it got accepted, but then the seller had a higher offer, and because I didn't have any representation, would in this case I be able to like maybe sue the guy or whatever, just get my offer accepted? If the seller maybe thought he could throw one over on me because I didn't have representation, do you know what I'm trying to say?
In what way was he trying to throw one over?
Well, let's say I got no real estate agent, and you got a house for sale, and I want to put an offer on it, and I don't have an agent, but I come with my offer and a deposit, and I say I want to buy your house, and you say, oh, that's a great offer. Okay, let's do this. But then somebody comes in randomly, knocks on your door, and is like, hey, I'm out looking with my real estate agent. I like this property. I'd like to put an offer on it. And you say, well, I already got an offer. I was going back and forth with somebody. Yeah. But what's your offer? And this person says, well, I'll give it to you for, $30K more than what the other guy gave it. And you were like, well, heck yeah, I want an extra 30 grand. Doesn't everybody want an extra 30 grand?
Yeah.
So, and then you're like, hey, Sash, sorry, man. Like somebody came with a higher offer and I know we had talked about it, but we didn't really go too far. You don't have any representation. So this guy's got all of his ducks in a row. I'm just going to sell to this guy. In that scenario, can I be like, no, Jake, you already accepted my offer. We shook hands like men.
Oh, like a handshake.
Yeah, like a handshake deal, basically.
Oh, no. You would have no evidence of anything. I mean, yeah, unfortunately, that's not the way it works now. You have to sign papers and
so what if
they signed?
Yeah, if they signed, like in this case, like we're just hanging out like, hey, I'm going to buy your house. Here's my offer. And you're like, yeah, I like this offer. Here it is. Like, take this to your lawyer. Let me know when you're ready.
Yeah.
And then somebody came and offered you more and you're like, well, that guy really doesn't have representation, Yeah.
So there are some things to consider there too. I mean, did you have conditions that you needed to fulfill? Do you even know what a condition is? And yeah, I mean, you're definitely more likely to be taken advantage of. Like the agent might even suggest to the seller, just try and get this guy to go away.
Yeah.
And the buyer might not realize that they actually have the right to buy the property.
There you go.
So yeah, there's all kinds of things like that could get you in trouble.
Good. Okay. Talk about like home inspections and appraisals. What's going on with those? How does that help people? If I'm out there shopping by myself, is it something that I absolutely should do just to be sure the value is there? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. Okay. Home inspections are great to have just to know the structural integrity of a property. It's not always a main concern of a buyer, especially when homes are listed for lower and there's a bidding war. Having that condition, unfortunately, is seen as a deterrent to the seller. So it's not always a huge concern, but it's going to give you an idea of the structural integrity of the house and what might need to be replaced in the next few years or so.
It gives you a true value of what the house is if you have the appraisal done right. In a case where I wanted to put an offer on a house and I just didn't want to go too high over, so I put a condition to have an appraisal for value, right? Like something like that. Would that be a good tactic for somebody who's shopping on their own to keep in their playbook?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay, man. I mean, let's talk about negotiating. So Maddie's got down here how to effectively negotiate and what to look for during property viewings. And you and I did a video actually about what to look for in your walkthrough. Here's a little refresher for you guys, you beautiful people out there.
Yes, refresher. It's always good to know. So unfortunately, if you're buying on your own without a realtor and you don't have access to these comparables, your negotiation abilities are going to be pretty limited.
Okay.
Because you're not going to know really if the price you're offering, if it's a good offer, if it's too low, too high, you're not going to have an idea because you won't know.
Counter offering.
Yeah, counter offers, exactly. So that's something that's going to be limited, as they say.
Now, if I'm negotiating, am I negotiating with the seller or with the seller's real estate agent? If I'm doing this by myself? Well,
if you do get a hold of the seller, like you knock on their door and talk to them, it's going to be up to them.
Really?
They hire the agent.
That's good to know.
Yeah, for sure. They hire the agent to deal with that, right? So they more than likely are going to direct you to the agent.
Okay.
At which point
which makes it a lot harder.
Yeah, I mean,
so get an agent.
Just that you're at a disadvantage there, right?
Yeah. All right. So segment 3, considerations and resources. Emphasize the importance of hiring a realtor. Like, why is it imperative that somebody should hire a realtor? We did cover a lot here.
Yeah.
And it does all signs point to getting a real estate agent. But let's talk maybe some things that you feel are key or most important to hiring a real estate agent.
Well, we're definitely just going to come right back to the overpaying aspect where you just don't really know how your offer is going to stand against other ones, if there are other ones, relative to the comparables in the area. And at which point you're going to have to negotiate that commission that the seller would be saving off the purchase price. You're going to be assuming that you got a deal because you got to save that little bit of money, but really you might have been overpaying and you'll never know if you did, really.
Fair enough.
So there's that. And the other thing, legal pitfalls, right? Like we just talked about. And also, you might not be familiar or even recognize the seriousness of signing these contracts and fulfilling these deadlines on conditions and irrevocable periods. And it's all very important. And yeah, you could get yourself in a lot of trouble.
Yeah. So having a real estate agent there to explain all the contingencies, explain all the liabilities, the responsibilities and all that, pretty important. I would agree with that as well. Have you ever had an experience with somebody who had tried to do it on their own and then came to you? It was like,
Not to my
this
knowledge.
is nuts, man. I can't do this on my own.
Yeah, no, not to my knowledge. I mean, they may have and just didn't tell me.
Yeah, sure.
Because I mean, it's not something that, is like.
You want to go to ChatGPT real quick and get a scenario that you can talk about?
Is that horrible?
I love ChatGPT.
I know, it's great.
Create me a scenario of when somebody tried to buy a house without a real estate agent.
I'm sure it would come up with
came to me. Oh, it would spit you out a nice scenario to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what about like helping somebody, maybe a first time home buyer or somebody that was out of the market for a long time who like things had changed so much they didn't really know what they were doing and then came to you and was like super grateful that they got to have your help with all your expertise and your knowledge and all that.
Yeah.
Anything like that? You can tell us a success story.
I mean, I can't get into anything specific, but I can say that every
Privacy,
time
yep.
I've worked with people in a position like that, or even a different one, not necessarily a first time home buyer, people are grateful for my help. This kind of work, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that you don't really get to see and know about, especially if you're, haven't done it in a while or a first time home buyer, because, it's portrayed on TV and stuff. And really it's nothing like what you see or what you might think of it. And yeah, no, the feedback's always good. Haven't had a negative experience yet.
Good.
I say yet, but I don't plan to.
Hey, you never know, man. Like you can't please everybody. And that's one thing that I've learned on my side in the mortgages. Like you just can't please everybody, no matter how good of a job you do, no matter how late you answer your phone. At the end of the day, you can't make everybody happy. So
it's true.
It's not something I kind of stress about that in the beginning of my career, but I kind of just let that go now. I'm going to be myself, do the best job I can, make sure I'm giving it all. As long as I'm content with my work, and there's always learning, like possibilities to learn through every file, every deal, good and bad. So, but at the end of the day, like, I just try to do the best job that I can and just be happy with my work.
I would say that's the most important thing. And I completely agree. I mean, I don't think you can have too much knowledge. Like if you're learning something, I think
this industry is forever changing. So
it is. Yeah.
So you talked about like doing a lot of work behind the scenes. I really like that. That was a good comment because you are right. People see these real estate agents driving around in their BMWs and stuff. And, I do hear a lot of people say, well, I'm going to be a real estate agent. Yeah. It's so easy.
Yeah.
And like,
sure.
I don't really know much about your side other than like hanging out with you at open houses every now and then. But I know my side isn't easy. My side is tough, man, dealing with numbers and lenders.
For sure.
Talk about some stuff that you guys do on your side behind the scenes that people don't really see and like try to, make it relative to why it's important that somebody should be having a real estate agent because of all this work that nobody sees behind the scenes.
Yeah. Well, there are all sorts of things that, for example, I can bring to the table in terms of my market knowledge, transactional support, a whole list of professionals that will assist with the process. Everything that you might think you need, I have access to, or I know where to find it.
What about paperwork?
Yeah, are we still going?
People don't see all the paperwork that we do. I mean, people see it on my side because I'm like, go get me your bank statements, go get me your job letter, go get me your pay stub, go get me your whatever I need from these guys.
For sure.
So they see everything that I'm doing, but like I always explain it, when I'm just Joshua with my buddies, like the mortgage guys, we're like the parents.
Yeah.
We are like the parents in this whole transaction. You guys, the beautiful real estate agents, are like the babysitters. So I'm the one who has to go, no, Jake, do not quit your job before this closes. No, Jake, do not go and buy all that furniture before this closes.
Yeah.
No, Jake, don't go and buy that car before this closes. Do not do that, Jake.
Yeah.
You know,
I can totally relate
and
to
you
that.
guys are like, hey, man, let's go have lunch. We'll go drive around, go look at all these houses and hang out. And we'll just go walk through all these people's houses. And, you know,
I wish
just,
it was that easy.
Yeah. You know, but that's,
Hey, let's go, you know?
but that's what people see, right?
That's what- yeah, that's what they
That's
think,
what
for
they
sure.
see of us. Like, we're behind the scenes doing the numbers. You guys are out driving around having all the fun.
Yeah.
So what are like some stuff that you guys do that people don't see? Paperwork, whatever it is, that's like the tough stuff. That's
Yeah.
like the grueling work, because it can't be totally easy on your side.
No, it's definitely not. The psychological aspect is huge. I would say it's the majority of the job. How much of the job is about real estate? It's up for debate, but
Yeah.
when it comes to paperwork, it's not hard to learn, I guess, but that's not what is going to separate you from everyone else in this job. You have to connect with people. And I think it's very hard to do. You know, you have to get across to people some way. And yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, it is tough building rapport, and especially in this industry with the way the market is
Yeah.
right now. And like, it was so much easier to buy a house 10 years ago than it is now. And like now,
Oh, for sure.
you know, on both sides of this industry, we're kind of getting this bad rap because, you know, the income that we make. But I mean,
Yeah.
we didn't choose for the prices to go up. We didn't make the rates go up. Like, you know, we're just doing our job at the end of the day, right?
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah, so-
And all of that's out of our control. I don't think anyone has control of that I know of anyway. And
Yeah.
we're just kind of making the best of it, right? It's all we can do.
Sure. So just to recap a little bit of what we talked about here, pros and cons of buying with or without a realtor. A lot of cons. I mean, there are some pros where you can save some money, it sounds like, but a lot of cons, a lot of paperwork, a lot of mistakes that you can make that could screw up a deal. You know, very imperative to have legal representation still. So I mean,
Yeah.
why not have the whole team? Like you talked about having a team of professionals. You know, he's probably meaning like the beautiful mortgage agent
Yes, of
that
course.
handles that. So it's very, very imperative to make sure you have at least some of all this stuff going on, or you know what you're doing. Otherwise, hire a realtor, hire Jake. Jake's the man. Then we talked about some DIY stuff, doing it yourself. I mean,
Yeah. As far as I'm concerned, you're going to need a lot of time on your hands. So if you have a full-time job, it's probably not going to be ideal. I'm not saying don't try it. I'm just saying it's probably going to be harder than you think. And yeah, the time and the
time and knowledge.
yeah,
and
the knowledge
knowledge.
of the market for sure.
Yeah. And then considerations and resources, documents and process involved in the transaction. We didn't really touch on that, but that's probably pretty important. A lot of the documents are on my side of it, I think. What kind of docs do you need to get from people?
Well, they differ from buying and selling, but generally, yeah, you need to have the agreement with the client.
Oh yeah. You guys have the cooperation thing now. That was like a law or something that came in place this year, right?
I think it's been a little while. Yeah, those have been out. The new ones though, the self-represented party where someone can do it on their own. I imagine is leaning more towards people that kind of have some experience and, you know, have an idea of what they're doing. I mean, think of it this way. You wanted a concrete grade entrance poured, let's say, right? Mm-hmm. Would you try doing it yourself or would you hire someone to do it that does it for a living?
Yeah, exactly it.
Especially if you've never done it before, right? Maybe if you knew what you were doing with concrete and you've had some work done, you've done some work before. But if you're doing it for the first time, I mean, something like that, it's like a specialty, right? Like you want it to be done properly.
Yeah, there's so many things that could happen. And if you don't know how to navigate the challenges, you know, you're going to waste time. You're going to probably not get a good deal or get good work productivity out of what you're doing. So,
and another, the most important part is the overpaying where you just don't know. You think you're saving, right? That 2.5% or 2%, let's say, but you might pay 5% more than that seller would have been willing to accept. So you think you saved, did you? You won't know.
what if your strategy is to go in and offer 50 grand less than every asking price?
Then you're going to be looking for houses for a long time.
Okay. Cause that would honestly, just full disclosure, that would be my strategy.
Yeah.
If I was doing it on my own.
Hey, however long your determination is going to last is going to We'll see.
Good. So overall, pretty important to have somebody to help represent you and help you get through all the paperwork and with all the tools that you need to determine your offer price and, get all the stuff you need to know about the house and everything. So I would say you can do it on your own. Make sure you have some legal representation for that for sure. But hire Jake. Overall, Jake knows what he's doing here. So if somebody does want to hire you, my man, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, awesome. If you do want to hire me, you can get a hold of me at 519-567-2961. And I would say don't just take my word for it on these things. Do your own research into pros and cons and stuff like that. And, it's public knowledge. It's going to be there, and make your own decision,
Yeah, for sure. And so again, Jump Realty, you can check him out on Jump's website there. It's going to have all of his stuff there. And then we'll also have his contact everywhere. And if you need any help with your mortgage, of course, you can give me a call. Duncan's not here, so call me. You can call us over here. We got a bunch of great agents that work here. Lots of experience. I mean, our leader, Duncan's been doing this for 23 years now. So lots of experience, lots of good stuff. We have all the people that we need to refer to, like we do have all the industry partners. So if you want a tailored experience where you can be with the same group through the whole process, give us a call. That's a wrap.
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen borrowers, thanks for tuning in to the Mortgage Sweet Spot. If you have any suggestions for upcoming episodes or questions for our hosts, me and Sasha, throw them in the comments below.
And if you enjoyed the podcast, please subscribe to our channel on your preferred platform. We're available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or you can check us out on YouTube. Once again, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one.